Welcome back to another containerization crash course. My name is Jeff Krakenberg, and I kind of sound like I have a frog stuck in my throat still. I've been sick for like the last week and a half, but that's totally fine. It's totally fine that the doctor stole all of my blood, even though I'm iron deficient and not feeling great. Anyway, today we are going to work on troubleshooting a little bit. I know we do troubleshooting a lot, but today specifically is going to be with Docker Model Runner. I'm going to point out some things that you can look into if it's not working the way you wanted to. But to do that, we got to set up both our Dockerfile and our Docker-compose. So I have two basic files that I'm working off already in this directory that I called PyChat compose. The first one is going to be requirements.txt. Pretty straightforward. It's just going to have Flask and requests in it. This is because if we look at our app.py, all the way up at the top, it needs requests, and from Flask it needs requests and JSONify. JSON iffy? Yeah, iffy. I'm iffy on JSON. Anyway, pretty basic. It's going to use the environmental variables that Docker Model Runner is going to set up by default. This is the one bit of information that I'm going to highlight from here because we need to know that later. This is a pretty basic app. I can make it available, but also I'll hold here for a second for anybody that wants to like pause and build it in their own Python. The app roots are going to be what I'm highlighting the most here. We're going to have a basic app root at the home that just lets us know it's running, and then we're going to have an actual chat that lets us post to it. We'll get into that in a bit. But let me scroll down again, and just down here at the bottom it's just going to return what we need. So that's all the app.py is. I'm going to go ahead and clear my screen, and let's go ahead and VI a Dockerfile. So this is going to be a pretty basic one. We're going to go from that slim Python, which is Python:311 slim, and then we are going to set our work directory to the app and copy, that's going to bother me, copy the requirements.txt to the current directory, and then run pip install. Do we need to do no cache dir? We don't really need to do no cache dir, so we're going to skip it this time. No cache dir, if you guys don't remember, that's this. Just kind of says, hey, don't use the local stuff. But let's see if we can get it to work without that, and then if needed, we can always add it back in, and then last but not least, we can copy app.py to the current directory. Now this is breaking it out into two different layers in our build, so we're going to have a layer for copy and a layer for the copy app. This is fine in small builds. In larger builds, we could just do copy dot dot, or copy dot space dot to get both of them in there, but I'm going to call it explicitly in this one. And then last but not least, we need to run our CMD, which has those square brackets to tell it to do Python and app.py. So that is all our Docker file is going to be on this one. Right, quit your changes. Hopefully everybody's forgiven me for the Vim joke I made a couple of times ago. But that is going to be our Docker file. Now we need our Docker compose. I've done it so much it's just auto-filling. And this is where we get in with the Docker Model Runner being a little bit different. So we're going to have two high-level tags. First is going to be services. And then we're also going to have a high-level tag for volumes. But this one's just going to hold the model data. It's not actually going to have anything in it. Everything else is going to go inside of services. But we're going to have two different services. First, we're going to have app, which is going to build from our current location, and it is going to make available the port of 5000. So we'll do ports 5000. I know how to type, comma 5000, comma, that's a colon, Jeff. Come on, learn how to type. And then we're going to set in our environment that variable that we already called. So LLM URL equals HTTP colon and then our model port by default was 8000 that I said earlier, and then we'll do version 1 chat complete, no, completions. There we go. And then this is going to depends on our model. What's our model? That is our next mid-level tag. So we're going to say model is based on the image of Docker model runner. We'll do latest just to make sure if I'm holding on to an old version. It's been a minute since I've been at this desk. I have been ill, if I didn't mention that already. And this one's going to be 8,000. I highlighted that earlier in my app. We're doing 8,000 because we are. Read the documentation if you want to know more. And then our volumines are going to have model data, models, so that we can call them all. And then last but not least, we just need our environment, which is where we're going to set our actual things like model name. And for this one, I'm just going to use, I'll use Llama 3. I know I've been using small LLM, but one of the reasons why you might want to use Llama 3 is that it is OpenAI compatible. I was talking this morning with my partner. I said I should probably get back to speech therapy, and I'm starting to think that might be true. Anyway, here we have our Docker Compose. So we have our services. First is our app, very similar to what we've been doing. The only new thing is we're setting an environment variable for our LLM URL so it knows where to look. And we're saying it depends on the model. So the app won't run unless the model is working and running. In the model, our second service, we are going to base it on just Docker model runner directly. And then we're going to do the ports, volumes, and environment. This is one way to do it. As we talked about in the last video, we can also say that the model is a high-level tag or a first-tier tag. But for this one, we're going to make it a little bit more dependable. And that is all we need in this. So let's go ahead and right-quit those changes. And one last thing I'll do here is I'm just going to cat our Dockerfile and our Docker Compose so that we can kind of look through that. So we have from Python Slim, set our work directory to /app, copy in our requirements, install our requirements, copy our app, and then run Python on that app. And then in our Dockerfile, we have services of app on 5,000 and model on 8,000, with app knowing the environmental variable that our model is running on 8,000. Kind of points them at each other a little bit. Makes it hopefully a little bit easier. That'd be really funny if after all of that this doesn't work, but we're going to go ahead and do docker space compose space up space hyphen build to just do it all in one. No sense to build it and then compose it this time. Trying to aim for efficiency in this one. We have now exported it to the layers. It's a quick build, and it looks like we're running. If we scroll up a little bit, we'll see some some information events from our model saying that our server path and successfully initialized, logs enabled, metrics enabled, listening on port 12434, failed to ensure latest CCP, auto update is disabled, just some stuff you guys can read through if you run into errors. Highly recommend checking out those logs. But we should now be able to go to our localhost 5000 and just see that it is up and running. As I've mentioned many times, I refuse to be a developer. I'm not going to make a pretty site, but we do now have that up there. If I check out chat, which we saw as an app route, it says method not allowed. Because if we think back, it was a post, not a get. The reason why I didn't bother with getting stuff is because that's not the focus for today. The focus is troubleshooting. So if you are running your app in the background and you need to check and see if it's working and you don't want to load the app and interact with it directly through the GUI, you can test it with curl. So you can do curl space -x. Oh man, that's a long one. That's not what I want to do. But it is very similar what we're going to do. We're going to post to our local host, but not we're doing users. This is going to be chat. And then we're going to go ahead and do -h For our content type, that's our header, application / JSON, because we JSON iffied it. Still iffy on JSON, but here we go. Then we add another one for D, for the details or the data, whatever you want to think about it as. And inside of that, we need to have our message, colon, our message to the LLM. So let's say explain why Bulbasaur is the best starter in Gen 1. If you guys can't tell, Pokemon is still taking over my life. But now we have this curl. Let's go ahead and post it. And we'll see that we have doc type, HTML, like internal server error. Internal server error. The server encountered an internal error and was unable to complete the request. Either the application server is overloaded or there is an error in the application. Oh no, it didn't work. But we saw it there. And if we do nmap localhost, we've got two things running. We've got our app and we've got our model. But if you guys remember, there was a message earlier. Oh, we have... So, one of the things that we would need to look into to fix this, and this is going to be the challenges I leave you guys with today to build your troubleshooting, is that right here, it's listing on TCP port 12434. And then down here, we have sock equals connection dot create connection raises an error. So we have some actual Python, because I'm not a Python developer, but self-make requests as well. There are code issues that would need to be fixed because I can't just write an application that works. But one of the main things that you need to be aware of is that you have to use the same ports. If you're looking at one port, you need to be using that port. It's kind of like firewall rules. If you think about it like a application server on a local network behind a firewall. The firewall could allow traffic over port 8000. But if the server on the other side of the firewall is listening for traffic on a different port number, you're going to run into some problems. So that would be where y'all can kind of push yourself to get some troubleshooting knowledge. I know this one didn't go the deepest, but I wanted to keep it under a 15-minute video. So there are the steps to build and compose and then run your app using Docker Model Runner. It's all there, it's all working, but they aren't talking together. And in the next one, we'll actually get into fixing that.